Many of us spend our entire lives trying to find places where we feel fully seen and fully appreciated. I've been lucky enough to have found a few of those places, and they came in the form of higher education institutions. Places where I could be myself as both a student and as an educator. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Danya Von Matthews, an Associate Dean in University College at North Carolina Central University. And I'm at a stage in my life where I am lucky enough to be influencing culture with the hopes of making sure that everyone I encounter feels fully seen and appreciated. But let's be clear, I didn't grow up with a roadmap. I was the first in my immediate family to graduate from college, and the first in my whole family to earn a PhD. Thanks. Yeah. So, as you can imagine, I've experienced how transformative it can be when an institution sees your full identity, and also how isolating it feels when it doesn't. That contrast frames everything about how I support students. So as the first person in my family to earn a PhD, my journey has not been a straight path by any means. It's been shaped by two profoundly different educational experiences. First, finding my home at an HBCU, where my identity was celebrated. And then later, navigating a culture shift of a predominantly white institution for my doctoral studies. That transition forced me to confront a very troubling truth. Students like me, students of color, are too often seen through a deficit lens, measured by what we lack instead of what we carry. So the realization led me to find the community cultural wealth model, a framework that didn't just validate what I lived, it gave me the words to reframe it. So today, I want to share with you all how that model reshaped not only how I see students, but how I serve them. So my transformation began as an undergraduate student when Virginia State University enrolled me and, more importantly, embraced me. For the first time, I felt truly academically safe. I wasn't the loudest student in the room. I didn't always have the right words. But my professors, they made space for me. They gave me opportunities, and they believed in me. Now, let me be clear, okay, crystal clear. My HBCU experience was not perfect by any means, so I don't look at that with rose-colored glasses. There were long lines, often in financial aid. There were systems that moved at a snail's pace, and some people who will remain nameless that moved even slower, okay? We had rigid red tape, and there were days that left me frustrated. But eventually, I came to understand that HBCUs are woven into the fabric of American higher education. They face underfunding, inequalities, structural challenges, just like so many other institutions, but often more so. Yet, my time at Virginia State, I still managed to get a sense of pride, purpose, and power that I carry to this day. Because even in the struggle, there was unshakable love. And in the cracks, I found community. And no matter how far the system bent, the spirit never broke. Virginia State is where I truly understood that my cultural identity, it wasn't something I had to set aside to succeed. I saw that my Blackness, my femininity, my family was something to stand on. It was cultural capital. So I had a professor, Dr. Z, who shifted my mindset in ways I didn't fully understand until many years later. She wasn't just smart. She had the audacity to be educated, Black, a woman, an intellectual, and fully unapologetically herself. Seeing a Black woman with a PhD made the idea of earning one feel real. just as real as she was, wearing jeans, speaking with her DC accent, and mixing the cadence of academese with the ease of cookout conversations, making knowledge feel both rigorous and relatable at the same time. It was like magic that felt both powerful and within reach for me. So years later, I began my PhD at a predominantly white institution. Talk about a culture shift, okay? I chose that institution because it was a great school. I worked there, and I could earn my degree at a discount. Very sensible. But even being employed there didn't prepare me for the emotional cost of entering a space that wasn't built for students like me. And so it forced me to find community, in contrast to my HBCU experience, which handed me community on a silver platter. This was a school that my grandparents weren't allowed to step foot on just 60 years earlier. And now here I was, not just employed, but enrolled. I knew I belonged. I wasn't seeking validation. However, I was expecting to be valued. But I was being taught by some people unsure of what to do with my Blackness, with my identity. The doubt wasn't loud. It was quiet. It was polished and ever present. It didn't just affect me. I sat in meetings and heard students who looked like me described as underprepared, at risk, low performing. Excuse me? Compared to whose standard, right? No one mentioned the pride those students carried, or the resilience, or the strength that came from navigating systems not designed for them. The HBCU celebrated our Blackness. In this new space, it felt erased. So trying to learn an environment that ignored that part of the Black student experience left me both perplexed and deeply saddened. Saddened that our stories were reduced to footnotes, perplexed by why we weren't approached with the nuance that we deserved. So I knew I needed to make sense of what I was experiencing. The disconnect sent me on a quest to find a framework that reflected the truth that I and so many students like me had lived. When I found it, I exhaled. This model gave me the words for everything I had seen, everything I had lived, and everything I knew to be true about students like me. Dr. Tara Yosso's community cultural wealth model is grounded in 6 forms of cultural capital. These are forms of capital that communities of color so often carry. Aspirational, that's holding on to hope, even when the odds say otherwise. Linguistic, that's storytelling, bilingualism, code switching, and language as strength. Familial, that's wisdom passed through kin, memory, shared history. Social, those are the people, the networks that lift you up and walk with you. Navigational, that's the skill to move through systems not built for you. And then resistant, that's that fire to push back and thrive in spite of injustice. So in other words, the very things we are often told to downplay, to leave at the door, our accents, our family stories, our grief, our grit, those are actually our superpowers. She shone light on what I knew to be true, that our ability to code switch, to hold tight to family and faith, to dream without a map, to push through systems not built for us. That is not a deficit. That's wealth. Deep, rich, hard-earned cultural capital. It was reflected in the Black folks around me at my HBCU, who showed me I was already rich in culture and community, who helped me see that my identity, my story, my struggle, they weren't obstacles to overcome, but foundations to build from, who showed me how to turn struggle into strength, how to face injustice and dare to be excellent, dare to be joyful, and dare to lead. They created space for me to dream big, to believe that I could do the impossible, to recognize that I was standing on the shoulders of giants who had carved a path through hard ground. That was my legacy. That was my cultural capital. Yosso's model didn't feel new. It felt like coming home, like HBCU homecoming, but wrapped in methodology. That's why I bring this lens in my work every day. Too often, students of color, first-gen students, and low-income students are viewed through a deficit lens, what they don't have, what they lack. CCW flips that script. Because these students are not broken, they're brilliant. They're strategic. They're navigating 2 or more worlds, code switching daily, bringing with them not just knowledge, but cultural agility and problem-solving skills owned by life itself. Academia must stop asking us to tone down that richness. Instead, we must honor it, build upon it, and let it transform how we teach, how we advise, and how we lead. Because our struggle is not our shame, it's our testimony. So fast forward a few years after, earning my doctorate and stepping fully into my work in higher education, thank you, I had a revelation. The work wasn't just about theory anymore. It was about practice. One day, a student pulled me aside and said, "Dr. Matthews, I had to Google what a bursar was after our meeting. I didn't want to ask in front of everyone." And that moment stuck with me. It actually stung. How many professors and advisors casually use jargon like disbursement, matriculation, validation, or registrar without a second thought? I know I did. And how many students sit silently, confused but too embarrassed to ask? The issue wasn't communication, it was translation. So my team and I have been making a shift. We began shaping an advising approach grounded in CCW. We approached advising in a way to connect with students, a way to celebrate their strengths. We began treating every student as if they were first generation. We removed jargon from our materials. We love alphabet soup in higher ed. We broke down the steps. We built spaces where students could ask questions without shame. In addition to explaining processes step by step and restructuring our materials to be more clear and accessible, we also prioritize mentorship, community building, and my favorite, cultural affirmation in everything that we do. Because every student needs to feel like they belong, that they're enough. The CCW model taught me that belonging means we don't just allow students to bring themselves through the door. We need them to. Our job is to help them without making them feel less than. But we have to make the places they're in feel like home. And when we do that, when we give our students the tools to support their stories, their culture, their experiences, we create a ripple effect. So I've seen it play out in my own life. My younger sister, who earned both her bachelor's and master's degree, with just a little help from me, her slightly older, slightly more seasoned, maybe a little bit more adorable sister. And now my older sister's daughter, my niece, like us, is thriving in college on a full scholarship. Yeah, so proud of her. But it's not because we fixed anything in her. It's because her aunties helped her see the wealth she already possessed. That's what happens when one person reaches back and lifts up the next. HBCUs don't just change lives, they launch futures. One graduate inspires the next, and the next after that. They turn challenge into strength. They offer more than degrees. They instill belonging, identity, and the tools to break barriers. And this perspective, this approach, works on every campus. So here's my challenge. Y'all ready? Okay. Don't focus on what your students lack. Roll with me. Celebrate what they bring. Don't ask how they should change to fit your institution. Ask how your institution can shift, stretch, and restructure to reflect their cultural wealth. Because when we value who they are, their history, their hustle, their hope, we don't just help them graduate. We help them build a legacy that echoes across generations. Thank you.